Hey everyone, Kaylee here. In this video, I will give you a quick overview of the RxCase study. Details and artifacts can be found below. So Rx, or Respondent Experience, is our B2C platform that connects users with surveys that match their profiles. So we work with over 800 different supply partners, and our qualification surveys help facilitate the completion of over 200 million surveys annually in 130 countries. So that means that there are a lot of eyes that see this product. And unfortunately, the product definitely needs some TLC. It primarily wasn't optimized for mobile. We had extremely high drop rates as early as the consent page. It was pretty ugly and outdated from an aesthetic standpoint. And then we were needing to comply with some GDPR and other legal requirements that were coming into place. So it kind of seemed like the perfect time to revamp. So I was brought on to redesign the experience. The goal here was to really simplify the interface, integrate best practices in survey design, improve overall usability and the aesthetic, and then comply with those legal requirements, all to hopefully boost completion rates and reduce our drop-off percentage. This project was broken into 3 different steps, which I'll talk through: discovery, UX design, and then visual design. So first one, starting off with discovery. So first I conducted a analysis to better understand what the overall process is, focusing on how our platform integrates with the panelist's journey from start into finish. And what I found is that, which you can see here, kind of just with screenshots I've taken, is that there are 3 different steps. So when a user comes in to take a survey, they see one platform, and then they'll say, okay, I want to take a survey. Then they'll move into this next platform, which is where we come into play. You can see this is our old consent page, and then some of our different questions. And then if they pass that and they qualify for an actual survey, that they're then navigated to a survey that may look like this, for example. And then once they've completed this, they will come back to that original one that we saw first. So there's really different 3 key players, and we only control one part of that process. So that was a really big takeaway for me. The next was doing some market analysis, and that was really to just kind of understand the landscape of what are the mobile usability trends, what are some of the survey best practices, a little bit of survey psychology, just to get an understanding of the landscape as a whole. And then I conducted a kind of competitive analysis overall, which you can see here. I've broken down into kind of 3 different buckets that I was looking for, and that was interactions, UX components, and the visual and branding. So I've taken a lot of different screenshots and then notes to kind of just understand how these all play in. And then what I've done here is created an executive summary that kind of highlights all of them so that I can look at it in one comprehensive view. And then the last thing I did was I did an audit of all of our current qualification questions, both standard and custom, to really highlight areas of improvement and to understand how different languages come into play. So after that, I went into the design aspect of it. There were a lot of technical limitations that were in place, which did strip down some of the potential UX stuff that I could do, such as step counters and buttons and things like that. But I did work really closely with engineering teams to identify dependencies up front to hopefully minimize design set where I could. I did lead 3 iteration cycles and then validated these through different stakeholders, as well as doing an exercise with different languages to make sure that the visual was scalable across those. So you can see here we started out with some wireframes, just kind of playing around with different ones. This is just one of the questions. Then going into one where we're incorporating more colors and more interactions and a little bit of those finer details. And then the third here, you can see we're playing around with some of the fine touches and different designs, as well as different colors and visual treatments. So next up is the visual design, which these are the main screen, but I'll talk to those in just a minute. So the visual design was very interesting. As I mentioned before, this is a fragmented user experience, and of course I only have control of one part of it. And my biggest takeaway was, how can I make the visual design less about us and more about what I'm going to call is creating a chameleon experience where it blends well with other branding. So I got buy-in from my leadership that I could experiment like this, and then I created a measurable UI, so to say. So I used, looking at a lot of the research I've done before and trying to understand what are simple and common colors that I could utilize. So blue, black, white. What are some of the more well-known and utilized topographies like enter? I looked at different button styles, at alignments, at layouts, at interactions, and said, okay, what are some of the most common ones that make sense and complement what we're trying to do? And by focusing on some of these more common visual elements, I think we created an experience that blends really well with the overall journey that users are experiencing, while maintaining and ensuring that we're enhancing usability. So as you can see here, these are our final screens. Things to highlight are our consent page. So we redesigned that based off the nutrition label design that had been performing really well on other platforms at the time. And then we created these 7 different distinct style questions. And these are based off of the audit that we've done on the types of questions that we ask. So what styles make the most sense based on our most common questions. And then really diving deep into that research of like from WBA, from the Bureau, looking at things like Fitz Law to understand what's the best way to design this that makes the most sense from a survey design perspective. And then at the bottom here, I created some design guidelines, and that was really just to help the dev teams understand how the pages should interact so that we could maintain visual consistency even when different languages were being displayed. So wrapping up, I guess, there were resource constraints that have delayed the development of much of this project, but they did launch the consent page and the age page about a year ago, and the drop-off rate from that has decreased, I think, about 6%, which is actually a lot for just one page. So really looking forward to seeing how this is incorporated in the future and what it does for our panelists moving forward. Thanks for listening.